something. I hope you learn something. I hope you learn something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny
Howdy. Welcome to the Monday edition of the daily All Hat No Cattle News Rodeo. I'm your host, Hat. We've got at least 2 hours of fun, frivolity, and facts up ahead of us, folks. A massive law and order block for the last half of the show. Big news coming out of the White House regarding combat operations in Iraq. I'll have that at the top before the Babylon Bee even. Bitcoin is making a breakout today. I'll talk about that a little bit. And I have a pretty courageous yet sad video of a fourth grader giving it to the school board in a very calm manner of a really ridiculous thing they're doing to those kids and the outrage that's coming out of it. So we'll talk about that. And then also I have a interesting Axios poll about transgender people participating in the Olympics, specifically transgender men. You might not expect the number that we get. But so let us start with the story I just teased. According to Military Times, today, President Joe Biden and Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi are going to be announcing the end of U.S. combat missions in Iraq. We're going to be turning over the control of ISIS and the Iranian militias in Iraq to the Iraqi people, to the Iraqi, I almost said Afghani, to the Iraqi Defense Forces. We are going to maintain a small position in Iraq, as I understand it, but we are now coming down and transitioning to a train and advise role as opposed to an active combat role. I'm in complete agreement with this. And once again, it seems the only time Biden does something right is when he follows Trump's lead. This is another troop withdrawal. Biden obviously batched the Afghani withdrawal. It was a complete, utter S show, and it continues to be. But this is a thing that was set in motion by Trump years ago, and it's amazing that Biden's actually following through. But following through he is. So now if we can just get out of Syria, things will be good. Things will be good. And I'd like to welcome Emir Orhan Apo, or otherwise known as Talk, to the YouTube chat. Very nice to see you. Very nice to see you. And of course, Twin Crier and Dirty Air keeping us company in Trovo. Nice to see all of you. Busy chat today. Busy chat today. I'll be honest with you right now. I'm surprised I have any energy at all. After the game stream this morning, I was exhausted. I laid down for an hour, so the show's going to be a little loosey-goosey today because I didn't have a chance to really prep for it like I normally do. But I feel great now. I really do. I feel absolutely terrific. Let's hope it continues for the rest of the evening. But good to be here. Good to be here. All right, so let us move on and start, as we always do, with a Babylon Bee bookend. This will be the one on the left. Let's pick it live, folks. Let me update the screen here. And let's see here. What have we got? What have we got? Oh, here we go. Here we go. This looks good. This looks good. From their sports section, to improve box office performance, LeBron to be digitally replaced by Michael Jordan in Space Jam 2. And here we have a picture of what I understand to be a scene from Space Jam 2, which has absolutely tanked in the box office, as I understand it. And we have a picture of what looks to be LeBron in the Toon Squad jersey, but that seems to quite be Mr. 23 himself, MJ, rocking the tats. Dateline US, Space Jam 2 hasn't been performing well at the box office as Warner Brothers had hoped, prompting the movie studio to make drastic changes. The film has been frantically re-edited and re-released with Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player of all time, digitally inserted into the film in place of LeBron James, the second or possibly third greatest basketball player of all time. Quote, "We realized the only way to drum up more interest in this film was to put the greatest player of all time into it," said one executive. "So we took out LeBron and put Jordan in, and whammo, people started going to see the movie." Analysts say that putting in an athlete with superior skills, a better attitude, and less hate for America, quote, worked wonders for the movie's box office performance, causing tons of people to flock to theaters and begin streaming the movie on HBO Max once they saw that the, quote, insufferable LeBron James wasn't in the movie anymore. Quote, "I guess Jordan's the greatest of all time in both basketball and in live-action films mashed together with Looney Tunes characters. He's the rare total package. Well, I guess he wasn't any good at baseball, but other than that, I mean." Close quote. James didn't take the news well, tweeting out a picture of Warner Brothers Studio with the ominous caption, "You're next." The Babylon Bee kicking us off, as always. Nicely done, good people. Nicely done. Oh, is the subscription working, JF? I had no idea if I did it right or not. Honestly, I couldn't get any kind of a notice that I had activated subscriptions. There was no little, "Hey, you did it," or anything like that. And of course, since I own the page, I would not see a subscription link on the homepage. So I thank you for letting me know, man. I appreciate it. And Ray, it's due to Ray. I never would have gotten the subscription set up if Ray hadn't told me about it. What was it, Ray? A month ago? A month and a half ago? And today it came up during the game stream, and I finally remembered to do it. Finally. So the great thanks goes to Ray for making that possible. Twin Crier says he's wearing a black hat today. I hope that's not an omen for today's news. Monday is always Black Hat Day. Always Black Hat Day. It's just that's what it is there. And it is late in Emir's area. Absolutely late. I'm gonna keep you up into the wee hours of the morning, my dear Talk. So hang in there. All right. as always, my personal conceit, the market. We closed in record territory again today. The market was basically flat after a bit of a sharp dip this morning. It actually dropped below 35,000, but climbed up and has made slow but steady gains for the rest of the day. The Dow Jones closing up almost 0.25% at 35,144 and change. So again, a record close. The S&P 500 also up, I believe, a record at the same amount, same percentage as the Dow Jones, and the Nasdaq came up just barely in the black, 0.03%. Pardon me. Gold has slipped below 1,800 an ounce for the first time in a couple of weeks. It is now at 17.97 and change per ounce. Crude oil is up barely, comfortably above $72 per barrel of West Texas Intermediate sweet crude. But the big winner today is Bitcoin. As you can see the chart here, it had a fairly flat morning, and then right after midnight Eastern time, boom, it blew up. I briefly hit 39,000, or I should, hang on a second, let me get to the top there. Briefly hit 40,200 plus per coin, and it's since sold off a little bit, and it's currently at 38,750 and change, up a full 12.35% from its previous mark. So interesting news for Bitcoin. And Emir says in the YouTube chat, things get on the screen now. That's good. Folks, we so far we are off to a roaring start. I haven't had one technical problem yet this stream. I had one this morning, but not one yet today. Not one yet for this stream. We could be breaking a 15 stream losing streak of technical difficulties. We'll see what happens, but so far so good. Thank you for noticing, Amir. Thank you. So, why did Bitcoin blow up? Well, there's a fairly specific reason. It seems that there was a big group of shorts against Bitcoin that's been happening for a number of weeks, and it was up over $1 billion, $1.2 billion in shorts were holding against Bitcoin, and they pulled out. The Bitcoin's been having some positive sessions, and the hedge funds decided enough was enough, and so they yanked their shorts on Bitcoin. And when shorts go away, the bulls take over, and kaboom, Bitcoin blew up. Also, as I told you last week, Amazon has opened up a position. They're looking to hire someone for digital currency and blockchain project lead. It is our understanding, according to, I believe, Advertiser Weekly, that Amazon is looking to take Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ripple. Wait. Let me make sure I got that right. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano. Not Ripple. Pardon me, Cardano. So in fact, Amazon is also exploring creating its own cryptocurrency for coming up next year. Also, regarding Bitcoin, environmental concerns, quoting the article here from Seeking Alpha, environmental concerns over mining and Chinese regulatory worries appear to have worn off, while traders are exiting bets on declines at a record pace. So again, that is the shorts moving out of the market. Michael in the YouTube chat says, "I like my women like I like my oil, Texan, intermittently sweet and crude." That's the best oil pun I have ever seen. I'm going to have to figure out a way to get that onto a T-shirt. Please. Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, moving right along then. Cuba is, of course, still in the news, big time. And thank you, by the way, JF, for the subscription. I really appreciate it. Or Ray, I should say, for gifting the subscription. Really appreciate it. By the way, I hope you like the notice, the hat fan notice. You can only use 8 or 9, 10 characters, I should say, 10 characters for the notice. Very, very limited. So I had to go with something short and sweet. I hope that's if you like it. If you want to give me another idea with a 10-character insert, please let me know. But so yeah, Cuba is moving out in front of the White House now. I have a video here. Hang on a second. Let me check the audio. Let me turn down the audio. I had to crank up the audio quite a bit today for the fourth grader. But oh god, I forgot to turn it down for the opening song. Oh, I probably blew your guys' ear out. Oh, there it was. 16 shows. I blew it. 16 shows. Anyway, so this is a protest in front of the White House, and people calling for a free Cuba. Let me blow that up for you. Here we go. So there you have it. Protests in front of the White House. I'd like to quote someone named Maria Fundora. She's the head of a Texas-based group called Cuba Libre, and here is a quote from her during a interview with the Miami Herald. "We went into Kuwait, Somalia, and didn't ask for anyone's permission. We went in and killed Osama bin Laden and didn't ask anyone. Are you telling me someone from Cuba needs to do something as horrible as 9/11 to get the U.S. to do something?" I could not agree with Maria Fundora more. I could not. That is exactly what I have been calling for 2 weeks now. Boots on the ground. Getting internet up is a start. Once we have that, we can start communicating and organizing. And get the people together and make a concerted effort to free this country from the grips of the communist dictators that have held it since 1962. It has to be done. It has to be done. If we're going to try to bring, I've said this before and I'll say it again, if we're going to try to bring democracy to Iraq and Afghanistan and completely cut the head off a Libyan government that was repressive but was holding the country in place, turning it into an absolute military-run faction zone with live slave trades going on every day, then why can't we free Cuba and turn it back into a democracy, which it knew for a long time after they threw the Spanish out? I don't see any reason we can't do it. I just don't. Emir says in the YouTube chat, why can't people protest like South Korea? They're a protester with candles peacefully without screaming, and it works. Totally different culture. Totally different culture. It doesn't translate. It does not translate. But I see your point. But yeah, it does not translate. Not at all. The Cubans and Americans, very, very passionate people. And it's just the way it is. But I do see your point. Okay, so as I teased at the beginning of the show, I have a video here. This is a fourth grader at a school in Minnesota. Okay, Minnesota. Supposedly, a fairly libertarian-minded state, but with a backbone of the great Norwegians and Finns who moved there at the behest of the railroad companies and found a land that was nowhere near as nice and inhabitable as they were told, and many of them froze to death their first couple years there, but they still carved out a great society and built a wonderful state out of basically nothing. But they have gone woke, folks. Minnesota has gone woke. Obviously, Minneapolis is a great example of what they've done to what was once a beautiful city. Minneapolis-St. Paul at one time was a great place. I've been there. Picassonos and I had our first date outside of either North Dakota or Wisconsin at Minneapolis-St. Paul, and we loved it. We went to a theater in Minneapolis, and then the next day we went to the St. Paul Zoo, which was incredible. I've told you the Here Kitty Kitty story. But now it's a hellhole. It's an absolute hellhole. And I've got a story coming up in the after show about how they're trying to make it even worse. But we'll get to that later. But here's a fourth grader who is telling the school board that during a class was held where her and her fellow classmates were given a basically a survey, a survey based in critical race theory and anti-whiteness. And they were asked things such as, what is your gender identification? These are fourth graders. And they didn't understand the questions. And the explanations were even less clear than the original question. But they were told, don't ask your parents about this. Don't tell your parents about the questions. This is just between us. Here's the video of her.
My name is Haley Asgard. I was in 4th grade at Riverview Intermediate School last year. During distance learning, I was asked to complete the equity survey. My teacher said that I could not skip any questions even when I didn't understand them. One question asked us what gender we identified with. I was very confused along with a lot of other classmates. A boy in my class asked my teacher if his mom could explain the question to him because even after the teacher explained it, he still didn't understand. My teacher told him that he was not allowed to ask his mom and that we could not repeat any of the questions to our parents. I want the school board to know how uncomfortable and nervous this made me. My mom always tells me I can tell her anything, but she also tells me I can trust my teachers too. Being asked to hide this from my mom made me feel very uncomfortable. I was doing something wrong. Thank you.
All right, folks, that's a fourth grader. So here's the backstory on that.
Really, outside of New England, we've had a
excuse me.
relatively benign course for this virus.
Boy, I didn't know Rand Paul's beard had grown out that much. Wow. That man can rock a beard. Anyway, that was an interruption, my bad. It seems I've got autoplay turned on YouTube for some reason. I don't remember ever doing that. But so here's the backstory on this fourth grader's appearance in front of the school board. She goes to the Sartell St. Stephen's School District, and her name is Haley Yasgar, a great Norwegian name, of course, as I said. Haley is spelled Haylee, by the way. So it turns out the school district hired a group called Equity Alliance Minnesota, and they paid them $80,000 of taxpayer money for an audit on, quote, racial inequities within the school district. And part of that audit was students filling out a required survey. That's where the fourth grader kicks in. Now, the mom said the school district told them there was going to be this equity audit, but they didn't explain it in any way. And of course, unless you're as tuned into the news as all of us are, you wouldn't know what an equity audit even meant, much less what the implications were. It sounds benign. Most people don't know what equity even stands for. They think it's analogous to equality, when of course it's the exact opposite. Equality is equality of outcome. Pardon me. See, I just got it backwards. Equality is equality of opportunity, whereas equity is guaranteed outcome. And I probably screwed that up massively. Please forgive me. But you understand, a lot of people don't know that there is a distinct difference between the two. But the thing is, the parents weren't told what any of the questions were going to be, and they didn't even tell them when the survey was going to happen. So if the kids hadn't gone to the parents and said, look, here's what happened in school today, they would have had no idea of any of this. And these weren't even teachers telling them. These were the quote-unquote auditors from this far-left group conducting the survey in front of the class. Now, quoting the mom, whose first name is Kelsey, K-E-L-S-E-Y, I do want to say, though, I believe that this wasn't a single case that her teacher made this decision. We had been informed that this came down from administration, and Equity Alliance of Minnesota instructed them to make sure the children did not share this information with their parents, and that should pose a great concern in any parent's eyes. The mother also said, Equity Alliance of Minnesota is, quote, causing 100% division among races in schools and amongst children. Children do not see color. They are taught to see color. And when you bring EAM into our school district, equity is the mask that critical race theory hides behind. And we are not okay with those types of ideologies being taught to our children at school. Politics do not belong in our schools. They're to be educated. Close quote. Folks, in my opinion, public schools in America, everywhere, are toast. We've seen these kinds of stories in Oklahoma, in Nebraska, in Iowa, deeply red states. Remember, teachers come from universities. Universities across the board are all now Marxist indoctrination camps. There are very few people who come out of university with, thank you, White Fox Liz, there are very few people who come out of university without having been brainwashed by their professors. It takes a very strong mind to fight this stuff off. And remember, if you're a conservative on a college campus, unless it's basically Liberty University or Hillsdale, you can't even speak your mind without having the teacher give you an F, no matter what the quality of your work is. And fat chance fighting that with an administration that is as woke as all the teachers. Remember, every major university in this country has an equity and inclusion department. Every one. And these colleges, some of them have endowments in hundreds of billions of dollars. Harvard and Yale, for instance. They ain't hurting for money. There's no consequences to what they're doing unless people stop sending their kids and run down their revenues to where they have to make a choice, dip into the endowment or clean up their act. But still, that's way down the line. We still have all these teachers who are going to be teaching for the next 30, 40 years plus. And they're not going to change their minds overnight. Now, I know public school is a must for a lot of people out there. I don't have kids. I don't have any skin in the game. But there are so many alternatives to public schools out there right now, and there are more and more every day. Love that. Love that sticker, by the way, Doug. More and more every day. And you got to pull your kid out of public school. You've got to force the school district to realize if they don't change their ways, they're going to lose their jobs. Because remember, most school district funding is based on attendance. So if you ruin the attendance numbers by getting your kids into any number of alternatives, teaching alternatives or organizations, they're out of a job. It's got to start at the grassroots. It's got to start at the grassroots. Emir says in the YouTube chat, some schools need law. Well, unfortunately, they're within the law. That's the whole problem. They're within the law. The laws need to be changed. All right, moving right along. We're going to be here a long time today, folks. There's a lot of ranting to go on today. I have a archived article here from the Wall Street Journal. It's written by Janet Adamy and Anthony DeBarros. That last article, by the way, was from the Daily Wire. And this shows a very, very troubling trend in America that is only continuing to get worse. This chart right here is the number of births per deaths in the United States since 1930. And as you can see, it's been pretty much well above the replacement line. One birth per death means a consistent population. And of course, you saw the spike, the baby boom here, 1950 to 1962, 63. That's the baby boom. 65 actually, excuse me, 55 to 65. And then there's just a steady decline. There was a brief uptick in the late 60s, early 70s, and then pretty much a steady decline since then. If you draw the through line, it is a steady decline with just a few bumps. And as you can see here, since 2006, 2007, when the recession kicked in, 2008, it boom fell off the chart, and don't expect this year's numbers to be any better. Expect them to be a lot worse. I'm predicting. So we are quite in danger of getting below we're barely at the replacement line right now. We're in danger of having more people die per year than be born in the United States. And that is the sign of a declining civilization. You start losing birth rate, then you have to start importing labor. Now, of course, the government's doing that right now by completely opening our southern border. And I've got a story about another thing they're doing to make sure illegals are able to stay in the country. That's coming up. But those people are a drain on society. They have a very high rate of taking government resources at a level that they are not replacing them. Basically, welfare. Amir says, whenever the duck noise comes out, it looks like I'm swearing. That's a notification that I've gotten a subscriber, and I do not know where that sound came from. But again, thanks, Doug, for the gift. I have to figure out a way to put that in there. But yeah, folks, as it says here in the article, after births peaked in 2007, they never rebounded from the nearly 2-year recession that followed, even though Americans enjoyed a subsequent decade of economic growth. Of course, that was the slowest rate of economic growth in U.S. history. But who are we to judge until Trump took office and kick-started the economy? But sobering news, folks, sobering news. So as I said, not only is the southern border open, but now we're not even going to enforce visas anymore. I've told you time and time again, the southern border, up until this year, was only half the problem. Now it's become a majority of the problem. But until this year, there were as many people who were here illegally because of overstaying visas as there were people who came across the border illegally through Mexico. Now, ICE has been gutted. Their rate of expulsion, what's the word I'm looking for? Not just use the word expulsion, of illegals is a fraction, a decimal point of what it used to be. And their budget has been stripped. So the cries for defund ICE, abolish ICE, this administration is more than happy to follow through on that. Although we're told Democrats don't want to defund police. Funny, they're defunding the immigration police with abandon. But once again, Biden quietly pulled out of a Trump policy that actually made sense. Didn't tell anybody. But it's an article from the Daily Wire by Hank Berrien. On July 6th, the Biden administration withdrew Proposed Rule 2020-2080-40. Pardon me, I can't read. Proposed Rule 2020-20845. Now, this would have put in a process that would have basically had Department of Homeland Security, through ICE and other personnel, do interviews with visa renewal applicants, student visa and some work visa renewal applicants. Now remember, we've had all these problems with Chinese spies, a lot of them students, and Islamic terrorists coming in on student visas and then becoming like 9/11 hijackers. Most of those guys were on student visas. But at least if I remember correctly. But there was supposed to be an interview with the student visa holder, and they would have to renew the visa every 2 to 4 years, And the DHS would check to see that they were still in good standing at universities. So basically, prove you're here for the purpose you stated and prove that you're maintaining an academic profile. Now, as quoting Todd Bensman from Town Hall in this article, the DHS agents would conduct eyeball-to-eyeball interviews with renewal applicants. The agents would also collect biometric information, spot-check progress at academic institutions, and double-check that original claimed purposes remained valid. This periodic regimen would have made sure not only that F1 visa holders from those countries were keeping the end of the bargain, the student visa, F1 is the student visa, but provide opportunities for suspicious activity referrals to the FBI. And the Biden administration threw it away. Didn't tell anybody, but they threw it away. Quoting from Town Hall in this Daily Wire article, in its official explanation, the Biden administration pointed out that 99% of those who commented on the regulation, a great many of them likely the affected foreigners, school administrators, and exchange visitor programs, didn't want to go through all the bothersome rigmarole for their generous host nation's security interests. The regulation, opponents most frequently complained, quote, would significantly burden, unquote, them with extra cost and time, would discriminate based on nationality, and would deny them access to, quote, immigration benefits, unquote. In other words, let's bend over backwards for anyone who wants to come to this country, not hold them up to their end of the bargain in any way, shape, or form, and just allow the number of illegal people to blow up in this country with no recourse, allow them to take jobs from American citizens. Because remember, a lot of these F1 visa holders graduate from schools, but don't go back to their home countries. Instead, they look for jobs with American companies where they will be paid more money than they would if they went back home. And the companies paying them less than they would have paid an American graduate with the same credentials hide them from DHS and from ICE. They actively keep their illegal status a secret. It happens all the time in corporate America. It is massively a part of corporate culture in this country. And the Trump proposed rule would have taken a lot of that off the books. So once again, the only time Biden does something right is if he follows Trump's lead. It's amazing. It's amazing. Oh, yeah. Ray says, by the way, 3 Chinese spies cut loose. That's true. That's true. I saw that article. I don't have it pulled up, but that is absolutely correct. The Department of Justice dropped charges on a number of accused Chinese spies. Just let them walk. Let them walk. And we've yet to hear from this administration anything approaching a coherent China policy. One of our assistant secretaries of state is meeting with a vice premier of China right now, and it's nothing but recriminations. America is racist. America has a problem with BLM. Why tell us how to run our society when you can't even run yours? It's a complete repeat of January in Alaska, or was it February? I think it was February in Alaska. Complete repeat, and all we're doing is just saying, yeah, and you guys do this and you guys do that. We still haven't said, and since you guys are housing millions of Uyghurs in concentration camps, actively sterilizing them, actively assaulting them in ways I can't say on YouTube, we know you're doing it, but we're not going to tell you that we're going to make you stop it by, say, sanctions beyond a few little tits for tats. Remember, Biden famously said, China's going to eat our lunch? Come on, man. They're not a threat. And he's treating them that way. Still haven't heard a coherent strategy for defending Taiwan. That hasn't come out yet. Justifiable Freedom says in the DLEC chat, foreign citizens buying large tracts of American farmland and building large capacity aircraft runways. Yeah. Don't forget the hundreds of pot farms that were created by the cartels in the southern southeastern California desert, stealing water from local farmers, setting up armed encampments. The LA County Sheriff finally went after them with bulldozers and guys with machine guns and cleared a bunch of them out. And there's still a lot of them to go. Every state that has said they're going to legalize marijuana and stop illegal trafficking has done just the opposite. They've increased illegal trafficking because states tax their marijuana so much that it's cheaper to buy it on the black market. And Americans, just like any other person in the world, go for the lowest price as long as the quality is decent. And the stuff grown in California is out of this world, I'm led to believe. Yeah, that is a constant pose, Amir, especially with Biden. His eyes always look like that. You could blindfold him with dental floss. Yes, Ray, that is a great question. We'll have to ask Biden what he meant by that. It's right up there with Jim Crow, Jim Eagle, but it is obviously much more vicious. So I didn't get a chance to read this article beyond the headline, so we're going to go into it together. But it really caught my eye. It's from the Daily Caller by Brianna Lyman. I like Brianna. She's a good writer. It's quite simple. Dems who fled Texas now begging for, quote, care packages like their deployed troops. What a great title. So here we have a tweet. I'll go right to it from Dallas Democrats. It starts with a blue heart. I guess that's their symbol. Ha ha ha. And it says, our Dems in D.C. said they'd appreciate care packages from home. Before 5 p.m. Tuesday, we're collecting Dr. Pepper, salsa, hard candy, hairspray, travel toiletries, hand sanitizers, sewing kits, first aid, and or money to pay for shipping. Thank you. You've got to be kidding me. This is the first time I've seen this tweet. You've got to be kidding me. We are shirking our duties as lawmakers. We are using taxpayer money to stay in high-end hotels. And we want you to send us stuff. You can't buy a sewing kit or a first aid kit or hand sanitizer or travel toiletries or hairspray in D.C. Dr. Pepper, probably hard to come by. I love Dr. Pepper, but I've quit drinking it pretty much entirely. This is a Sprecher root beer. I have one of these every so often, not more than one every couple days. I've had enough liquid IV energy for one day. But this is disgusting. This is absolutely disgusting. Let's see what some of the responses are. This is from Dinesh D'Souza. He laughs. These enemies of democracy are pretending like they are in Iraq or Afghanistan. The only care package they deserve is a pair of handcuffs delivered to them upon their return. Very nice, Dinesh. Very, very nice. Wow. Wow. Can't even take care of themselves in the biggest Democrat city in the country. Okay, so speaking of problems for Democrats, we talked about this story a lot, which is the Hunter Biden art scam. Some of you may know Hunter Biden is not a trained artist, yet somehow he has created enough really crappy art. There's one of his pieces I like. I'd pay maybe $500 for it, maybe. But we're led to believe that he is deserving of prices upwards of $500,000 for his art. As someone said, Joe Concha actually said on one of the shows I saw earlier today, Da Vinci could not have gotten that when he first started. And that's absolutely correct. We're also led to believe that this is the most ethical and transparent transaction between the relative, certainly child of a president, by having anonymous buyers buy the paintings, although Hunter gets to meet prospective buyers at both galleries that will be displaying his quote-unquote art. But we're told by Jen Psaki, and for those of you who don't remember, allow me to pull it up, Jen Psaki is the arrogant, condescending, dismissive, mendacious, passive-aggressive, patronizing, self-righteous, smug, lying White House press secretary. Jen Psaki said, well, since he doesn't know who they are, and then since he doesn't know who bought it, it's fine. It's completely above board. Again, the most transparent and truthful administration in history, who, by the way, told us last week that they would not release any positive COVID numbers from the White House anymore, that was over with, because now is a different time. That's a quote. Ray says, Hunter and Art are a conflict of interest. I like that. That's very good, Ray. That's very good. Ray, the Democrats are still getting, no, I'm sorry, the Democrats are not still getting paid. They're using taxpayer money from their fund, from the Democrat Party, donor money, as I understand it. The governor of Texas, I'm glad you reminded me, I'm pretty sure the governor of Texas cut off their salaries last week. Interesting that Nancy Pelosi can't front them a few pints of $12 ice cream. By the way, that company went out of business. Nancy Pelosi's favorite ice cream company went out of business about a month after that interview. Emir asked me in the YouTube chat if I love Dr. Pepper. Do I hate Dr. Salt? I love all Dr. Condiments. Dr. Ketchup, Dr. Garlic, I love all of them. And Skullcram says, Hunter Biden is the Bitcoin of the art world. Oh, that's good. That's good. I like that. And welcome, Steely Dan, to the Trovo chat. Very nice to see you. Welcome. I'm having a ball today, you guys. I'm having an absolute ball. This is the most fun I have had doing a show in a long time. So anyway, because the chats are great today. So CNN, of course, CNN, the most trusted name in news since never, has been silent on this whole art scam. Just absolutely radio silence. But, believe it or not, this weekend, they had a panel, and they actually used the words conflict of interest, an ethical problem. I'm not kidding you. I'm going to play this for you, and you're going to love it. Here we go.
One Pulitzer Prize-winning art critic says that he thinks that Hunter Biden's art is kind of like a cafe painter. He says you wouldn't, unless you were related to the artist, spent more than $1,000 on it. But then another art critic who actually likes Hunter Biden's work also says this: anybody who buys it would be guaranteed instant profit. He's the president's son. So obviously this is a problem, an ethical problem, one of optics, but also just from a practical perspective.
One of the other panelists picked that up in a similar vein. Fascinating. I wanted to get more of that discussion, but that was all I got out of it. I don't know how long CNN actually spent on it, but I got this off of Rumble from Rich Vales, his page. So thanks, Rich. I gave him a comment. In fact, as I said, as goes CNN, so goes the White House. Expect and I gave all the adjectives for Jen Psaki, to spin this like an industrial grinding wheel. So we'll see what happens there. In keeping with Democrats behaving badly, one of my favorite phrases, this article from Breitbart, I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I did catch the headline and it really caught my eye. Democrats, quoting them, "We're effed," regarding election integrity laws that have sprouted up like mushrooms after a heavy rain. Getting into the article, the CEO of the Stacey Abrams-founded New Georgia Project, ENCE Ufot, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, told Politico, quote, "If there isn't a way for us to repeat what happened in November 2020, we're effed." And they said the whole word. Also, Latosha Brown, I'm not making that up, co-founder of Black Voters Matter, told Politico that, quote, "Hope is quickly turning into frustration. When in the hell are those who claim that they are committed to democracy going to show up to protect those that protect democracy?" So, quoting the article, written, by the way, by Wendell Husebo. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Sorry, Wendell. Hadn't seen your name before. So, of course, states have passed bills doing such things as requiring voter ID and early voting requirements, quoting, more than 400 bills with election integrity provisions have, quote, been introduced in 49 states in the 2020 legislative sessions. Other states with pending legislative sessions, such as California, Massachusetts, Michigan, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Maine, still have election integrity measures waiting to be passed. I know Wisconsin, where I'm at, in Kenosha, Wisconsin, yes, that Kenosha, is really chomping at the bit to correct what happened last year, especially with the indefinitely confined status voters. You remember, tens of thousands of them, more than ever before, were added to that list last year. And in Wisconsin, if you're on that list, you do not have to provide any type of ID to get an absentee ballot. You are excused. And last year it was said specifically that fear of COVID was not an excuse, yet it was used thousands of times by people in Milwaukee and Madison counties. And according to the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruling on a case by Trump, here it comes, YouTube. Not saying it decided the election, but the Wisconsin State Supreme Court said that there were tens of thousands of illegal IC votes last year. That was a case brought by the Trump campaign against the Wisconsin results, and the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled that. Now, they refused to do anything about it, like all the other states did, but they did rule that there were more than enough illegal votes. Fill in the gap. I can't say anymore or YouTube will cut me off. So this is all good news. This is all good news. Okay, so I promised you a poll about the Olympics. The Axios poll was a lot more than just this particular question, but most of it was fairly anodyne. Certain things about, will you watch the Olympics? Do you know any people in the Olympics? This year I don't. I don't know the name of one person in the Olympics from the U.S. team. That's never happened to me before, ever. But this is the question that caught my eye. Do you think that transgender athletes should compete against? And here we have, and these are the different categories. In green, it is athletes of the gender with which they identify. In yellow, athletes of the gender they were assigned at birth. And in red, not to be allowed to compete. And in gray, don't know. Now, as you can see, the gray in Democrat independents were large, 33% and 34% respectively. So they don't know. So as opposed to Republicans, which was only 11%. But look at the number who agree with gender with which they identify. Democrats, only 35%. Independents, only 18%. Republicans, only 8%. So we add it all up, and it is 20% for in the whatever gender you identify category, 39% assigned at birth. I don't like that phrase, assigned at birth. You are not assigned a sex. You are born with it. The doctor doesn't determine anything. The only way you can't tell is if you're one out of 10,000 intersex births. That's it. Or unless there's a major birth defect, which is rare. And then, so 14% not to be allowed to compete at all. And then 23% don't know. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. So continuing with the American great successes at the Olympics, not only did the women's soccer team get blown out 3-0 by Sweden, the first loss they've had since 2019 when they had a tie, the men's Olympic basketball team got blown out by France. France. And here's the erstwhile coach of the U.S. team, Greg Popovich, the wokest coach in NBA history. He has said some horrible things about America while getting really, really rich off of Americans. Fascinating how that works. The capitalist system has treated Greg Popovich incredibly well. Yet all he does is cry about it, decry it, denigrate it. But the French won 83-76. They were down by 7 with under 4 minutes remaining, but they had a 14-point run versus 0 for the Americans and walked away with it. Now, there is a bit of an excuse for the USA team. A lot of these guys are fresh off the NBA Finals, so they're tired. Fine. It looks like France outlasted them. And the next game is against Iran, not known to be a basketball powerhouse. So we have a chance to at least advance into the medal round. But this is a huge, huge disappointment. And remember, pro basketball players have been allowed in the Olympics since, let me get that right again, 1992. In 1992, we won the bronze, and we've been grabbing the gold ever since. But Greg Popovich, by the way, got excoriated in the press. Let's see here. Let me quote. Let me see, who was this guy? Our sports reporter from USA Today. Quote: "If you want to call Greg Popovich the greatest greatest coach in NBA history, go right ahead. He's got 5 titles." But continuing the quote, "But let's be as direct and to the point as Popovich usually is. He stinks at Olympic basketball." Quoting further, Popovich is, quote, "clueless in what he values with this roster, clueless with an offense that unlocks very little of what his players do well, clueless with the expectations he took on following Coach K in this admittedly thankless job." The Sporting News said, quote, "Popovich is running out of time," and that he appeared, quote, "at times like he hadn't watched his own team." I've never rooted against America before, folks, ever. But as far as Olympic basketball and Olympic soccer are concerned, fine. Fine. Screw the women. Screw the basketball team. You get what you deserve. Oh, yeah. We're going to get about mandatory vaccinations. We're going to talk about that in the after show. Let me catch up with the D-Live chat here. I've missed some of it. Let's see. No more peppermint patty, asked Ray. Mandatory tattoo with the vaccines. Yes, Ray. JF says the Democrats should go back to Texas on a Greyhound. There's a problem with that, and I'm not kidding. There's a problem with that. All the bus companies are overrun with illegals. I'm not making this up. So are the airlines. I am not making this up. The illegals are being bussed and flown at your expense all over the country. Case in point, Madison Cawthorn, the new rep from, oh gosh, where's he from? Kentucky, Tennessee? I don't remember. Please forgive me. Maybe one of the Carolinas, but he's the young man who was paralyzed from the waist down in an auto accident when he was younger. But Madison Cawthorn was at the border this past weekend, or past Friday, pardon me, this past Friday, and he was trying to get back to D.C. Saturday, so he'd be ready for session Monday today. And he wanted to be able to be on the news shows Sunday morning to give what he saw on the border. He couldn't get a flight out of Texas to D.C. He had to wait 3 flights, if I remember correctly, into the evening before he was able to get on a plane. And I'm quoting him. He said when he sat down, there were 50 empty seats. And he wondered, why in the world would I have such a hard time getting on a plane with all these empty seats? A couple minutes later, 50 illegals with big manila envelopes with the destination that they're going to written in big letters on the envelope walked onto the plane, sat down, off they went. First time they wore masks probably since they left Mexico, by the way. COVID infections that we know of are up 900% at the border right now. 900%. And that's just the ones we know of. Yeah, Skullcram says, yet they can afford $4,500 to pay a coyote for border crossing. Here's the thing, Scully. Most of the time, they don't have all that money. They have a down payment. And then the coyotes own them while they try to find work here in the United States and siphon money off them, and quote unquote, until the debt's paid. But as you may know, when you're dealing with criminals, a lot of times the debt's never paid. The coyotes are not afraid of kidnapping family members to get more money. It happens all the time. We're never told about it. All right, going a little over on the YouTube segment, but I've got some good news here. This is an article from the Christian Post. I've never been to the Christian Post before, but I'm probably going to look for it more often. Written by Lee Marianne Klett. This is a picture of Nick Vujicic. I believe I'm pronouncing it right. He is an entrepreneur who started a medical group in California and struck it rich. You notice in the picture, he has no arms. Nick actually has no arms or legs. He was born without limbs, a very rare birth defect. But he has thrived in life. This a perfect example of what you can do when you put your mind forward and not accept limitations. A perfect example. But Nick has come up with an incredible idea. He's creating a bank that does not donate to Planned Parenthood. Now, I know that sounds like, oh, how often does that happen? Well, it happens all the time. It happens all the time. Quoting part of the article here, let me see if I can find it. I saw it earlier. Again, I didn't have a chance to really digest the stories like I had before. I guess it's in the earlier article that I read, not this particular one. But he talks about major banks who give major money to Planned Parenthood every year, $50,000, $60,000, just handing it out. And again, that's profits from their customers. So if you bank with Citibank or Chase Manhattan, chances are your money is going to Planned Parenthood and BLM and Democrat politicians. So Nick decided, I'm doing something special. And he's creating Pro-Life Bank. That's the name of it, Pro-Life Bank. And the bank, quote, will give 50% net profits to Judeo-Christian aligned nonprofit organizations to further the kingdom of God. Quoting Nick further, just like Noah saved lives, so we're going to save lives with Pro-Life Bank. It's based on the understanding that God wants to take back his role and redistribute it through his faithful students. The Dallas-based entrepreneur started trading options and stocks as a teenager and purchased his first home as an investment at 19 years old. He obtained a Bachelor of Commerce with a double major in financial planning and investments and accounting and graduated at 21. So, I didn't read this part before. I gotta read you this. I just got to this part. Again, loose show today. Let's see. He was presented with the idea of a pro-life bank, but he asked the presenter to give him 3 months to pray with his wife over the decision. During those 3 months, the father of 4 shared he faced spiritual assault like never before. Oh, I didn't know he was a father. Cool. Quote, my world turned upside down. We had a grenade thrown at our house. Pardon me, we had a grenade at our house. I threw the word in there. We had a grenade at our house. I had a false article published in a gay magazine that I fired someone for being gay. I had a lawsuit threat against me by somebody internationally. I had a spy drone above my house, and I got kicked out of a bank, all within a matter of 16 weeks after that prayer. Continuing the quote, it was evident to me that this is an issue close to the Lord's heart. The last 20 years of my life was sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ to millions around the world. The next 20 years will be preach where I can, but also bring change tangibly. Wow. Wow. And folks, there is an example of the radical left doing all it can to take someone out just because they disagree with them. Obviously, Nick is very, very upfront with his Christian values, and I would not be surprised at all if that gay magazine went after him just for that. Because as far as the far left gay community is concerned, you can't be a Christian and be okay with homosexuals. They all believe that every Christian is dead set down with Leviticus and would be happy to stone any gay they see to death, which of course is completely untrue. I've had gay friends. That there are some Christians who distinguish between gay love and gay physical love. Let me put it that way. I don't get into that, but this was an obvious hit job by a gay magazine, and look what they do to Chick-fil-A and things like that. And Chick-fil-A backed down. I was very disgusted by that. But this is an example of the radical LGBT community doing whatever it wants and getting away with it. Skullcram asks about the illegals. Are you sure? Am I sure it's legal work? No, I'm not sure it's legal work. I'm sure it isn't, actually. An illegal alien by American law can't get legal work. It's against the law. So no, they're working under the table, and probably a lot of other stuff that they shouldn't do. Justifiable Freedom says in the D-Live chat, what a great story it certainly is. I was very happy to find it. Very happy to find it. As I said, we're going long today, and so we went really long with YouTube. YouTube, we got to go. You've gotten your end of it, and now we're switching over to D-Live, Trovo, and Twitch. So if you remember, YouTube demonetized me months ago, so I don't have any love lost for YouTube. They're lucky they get the game streams. But I do the YouTube segment so I can bring you to D-Live or Trovo. I'm on Twitch too if you care to. But I've just opened up the subscription service on D-Live today, and it's already taken off like mad. So that's available to you. Don't forget, you get money back on D-Live. Every now and then I distribute the microcurrency back to you. So it's win-win. Trovo, I don't have a way to distribute it, but you can give. I also have subscriptions on Trovo. And I don't know a thing about Twitch. I just started doing it because I can. And also don't forget, tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern, we'll start our continued playthrough of Skyrim, also known as Elder Scrolls V. I'm on my way to the far northwest part of the map to finish up a quest to retrieve the axe of blah, 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 the Vile, whoever he is. We got to do that. I've got his dog, Barnabas, with me. So tune in tomorrow morning, and we'll see how that goes. Long way to walk. Long way to walk. Okay, YouTube. Bye-bye. And we are...